Hello, everyone. I would like to thank you for attending the 2021 PALA virtual conference. Please remember that evaluations for our conference sessions will be shared in the chat for sessions, but they will also be shared in the chat in the lobby for the conference software. So please take a few minutes after our session and after all the sessions you go to fill out an evaluation for our speakers and for the conference. Now, I'd really like to welcome you to our session, the library ecosystem. We are all in this together. Today's presentation will be given by myself, and I am joined by Paula Gilbert and by Alison Mackley, who are going to talk. Paula and Alison are going to talk a little bit more about some specifics, and I'm going to talk generally about that. So at this point, I'm going to share my screen and begin my presentation. So, Paula, can you see my screen?
Not at this moment, I can't.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to try this again because I think I hit the wrong thing.
Oh, now you're coming. There you go.
Sorry, I apologize to everyone. Every once in a while, I will hit the wrong button. So again, I want to welcome everyone to the library ecosystem. We are all in this together. Today, we're going to talk about the library ecosystem, how to develop partnerships, and some things for you to think about in terms of developing partnerships with other libraries, but also partnerships in your community. And then we have some solid examples that are going to be presented by Alison Mackley and Paula Gilbert. And I do apologize, Paula, I misspelled your name on my slide. And so there is a T at the end of Gilbert for those of you who are taking notes. So who am I? Well, I am Rob Lesher. I am the PA Forward Program Manager. I work at the Pennsylvania Library Association headquarters. I have been the PA Forward Program Manager since 2019. However, I have been working with PA Forward as an initiative since it was in its designing stages, and that was about in 2010 is when I joined actually working with PA Forward. PA Forward is an initiative of the Pennsylvania Library Association, and PA Forward is based on the concept that literacy is power and libraries provide the fuel for you, for your community, and for Pennsylvania. It's based on the work that libraries do in 5 fundamental literacy areas: basic literacy, information literacy, civic and social literacy, health literacy, and financial literacy, which all of our Pennsylvania residents need to have a working knowledge and fundamental understanding of to be successful citizens in a 21st century society. PA Forward is a project that is made possible in part by the Library Services and Technology Act funds from the U.S. Institute of Museums and Library Services as administered by the Pennsylvania Department of Education through the Office of Commonwealth Libraries and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Tom Wolf Governor. And we truly do appreciate having the grant and the funds to be able to bring PA Forward to you and to all residents of Pennsylvania. So our presentation today is talking about our library ecosystem. And so I thought I would just take a moment and kind of define for you what we mean by our library ecosystem. So an ecosystem is a complex network of interconnected systems. In our case, it's an artificial system, which means that it's human constructed. So by interconnected, it means that each element within that system relies and has an impact on each other. And when I say it's artificial, it is really constructed by humans, usually either by the leaders of institutions, if we're talking about kind of a society ecosystem, and the leaders of those community institutions, or it's created by some outside force. So when we talk about a library ecosystem, ALA describes a library ecosystem as the interconnected network of all types of libraries, library workers, volunteers, and associations that provide and facilitate library services for community members, families, K through 12, 20 learners, college and university communities, local, state, federal legislatures, government offices, businesses, nonprofits, and other organizations with specific information needs. Now, as we in the PA Forward initiative think of this, each of those library types, public, academic, school, special, function in the community that they are located. Each type of library is impacted by the health and ability of the other types of libraries in their communities' ability to meet their particular mission. If we think about it, each of those different types of libraries have a specific mission that they are trying to carry out that is governed by the community that they serve. And in terms of that, such as the school, its mission is to serve the curriculum of the school that they are a part of. A public library is to serve the mission of providing information, resources to their community as a whole, the general public. And an academic library serves the students that attend that academic institution and meet the curriculum and course needs of that institution. If one of those library types in a specific institution is not able to meet that mission, it falls on the others to pick up the slack that is caused by that library not having the ability to meet the needs and that mission. And I am really saying having the ability. For the most part, it's usually a financial ability to meet the need. I truly do not believe that there is any library out there that is actively trying not to meet their mission, but they may not have the resources available to meet that mission. And in terms of some of those different missions and some examples that I just want to leave you with that I have had in my professional career. In one of the libraries I worked at, we were faced with one of our school libraries that, quite frankly, did not have any material budget, or something on the order of like $1,000 a year to buy books. So when teachers would assign new assignments, adding new things to the curriculum, such as in this example, let's say that every student has to pick a book that covers a state, and that each student has to read a chapter book about a state. That school library, faced with such a small amount of book budget, wasn't able to buy enough materials for every one of their students to be able to read a book about the states. So it fell onto the public library that I was the director of to support that curriculum activity. And so we had to dedicate a number of quite a substantial amount of our children's book budget to try to buy the materials to meet that need. And a second example, same library, the public library did not have a video collection. And so our residents in our community actually relied on the college library that was located in the town, who allowed the public to come and get a library card to provide a video collection for that community. Certainly not their mission, and certainly it was because there wasn't enough resources in the public library to be able to meet that need. It impacted that academic library purchasing materials, having materials available. just like when the public library was supporting the state report. So that is the type of examples that I'm talking about in terms of meeting the needs, meeting the mission of the individual library. ALA, the American Library Association, does have this interesting chart about their use of the word ecosystem, and I'm just going to raise this for 1 second. We're using the word ecosystem slightly differently than how ALA is discussing it. They're really talking about all of our library entities speaking with a single unified voice when we talk to to the public, to our elected officials. It's more cohesive, helps our membership, builds professional development, and really is a great advocacy tool. But honestly, what we are talking about in our ecosystem is how these individual libraries work together in the community to meet their individual and group missions. So the way that we are looking at the way to help alleviate these pressures that can occur in one of our communities is the concept that if we partner together, we can help meet the common parts of our missions in a more unified way, which takes pressure off of that individual library who may need greater resources to focus on their specific mission. If we are all working together, we can actually, and working cooperatively, we could take that pressure off of meeting common goals, which will allow us to focus more, we can focus our attention on the areas of our very specific mission. So what I'm going to talk about in the second part of my presentation is actually a simple way of how to develop partnerships. Many of these concepts I developed from doing about a half a dozen interviews over the spring and summer with libraries that have had a strong partnership with other types of libraries in their community. And so I'm just going to give you a quick summary about how they found success in partnering and how they began to develop those partnerships. So really, I have a 4-step plan on how to develop partnerships. You reach out, you talk about your common goals, you match your common goals. So you match your goal with their goals, and then ask them what they are already doing and what's already available, because we don't necessarily want to have to reinvent the wheel every time we try to create a program. So the first part is reach out. And for many of us in the library world, we are introverts. And so this reach out may be something that's a bit of a reach for you. You may have to leave your comfort zone and actually do the initial contact yourself. What can you do? Well, you know what? You can pick up the phone and just call the other librarian and start a conversation. Ask them some questions. If you're really lucky, maybe, and they're not able to talk, maybe you can set up a coffee date. I loved coffee dates with differing partners. Just set up a time that you can meet on a neutral space. Neutral space and a neutral place is absolutely a real bonus for you, because you're not going to be distracted by the work of your library or the work of their library. But this is a very deliberate networking process. We need to be deliberate in trying to create these partnerships and trying to create these relationships. It actually takes an active part on our own parts, an active role on our parts to be successful in creating these partnerships. Talk to them about their goals. Ask them what they're trying to, ask them about what they are trying to achieve. They should always talk more than you do. whenever you're trying to set up these relationships. What are their plans? What are the goals of their strategic plan? And what have they identified? What are their identified needs? What have they seen their needs to be in the community? Evaluate what they are trying to accomplish. By that I mean process what their plans are versus what you know your plans are. Because what you're trying to do is achieve a common goal. A partnership should be aligned goals. You should not be the tool for the other organization to achieve their goals. The goals that you're trying to achieve should be your goals. So be sure that you match those goals when you create a partnership. A partnership should always be mutually beneficial. And that I can't stress that enough. Many times people get frustrated in a partnership because honestly, they thought the partnership was a great idea, but did not actually process the fact that they were not aligning the goals with each other. They were just taking on what that other organization wanted to do because they were trying to achieve something other than meeting a goal. Might be some, and an example of that might be the organization is a popular organization in the community, so you are trying to align yourself with them to gain some popularity in that scenario. Also, be sure to look at what they are already doing. As I said, you don't necessarily have to create something brand new every time you create a partnership, every time you go into something. Maybe they're doing a program already. You can help them to either expand it or bring it to your location and carry, not carry on to it, but kind of just expand its audience. An example of this is often the kind of one book, one community work that many places are doing, where they partner with either an academic library, a school library, or a special library in their area. And they're already doing it, but now you're aligning yourself with that specific program. Now, some things to think about when developing partnerships with other libraries from your colleagues. Number one, it takes time. You're not going to have one coffee and suddenly you are in this massive partnership. It takes time, takes baby steps. Don't think that you're doing just because it isn't rushing forward initially. It takes time. Have patience. Always, in terms of these partnerships, communications are challenging. We are all busy trying to achieve our mission. So just be the one to initiate communications. Be the one to send that email to just find out how things are going, or where, what new things are developing. The biggest challenge all the time to creating partnerships with other institutions is staff change. When staff changes, it feels like you're starting over from scratch, and sometimes you are. So again, patience is extremely important. But when you create these partnerships, there are opportunities. There are opportunities for you to grow resources. There are grant opportunities. Many granting institutions want to fund partnerships between libraries. Could be, hey, great. For both institutions, there could be a local foundation that would be willing to purchase a series of state books for each of those libraries, the school and the public library. Now you're both increasing your resources available, and then you can target your resources on something on another project. But that unified grant could help both of you. You can help fill gaps in your collection. An academic library definitely has deeper materials than a public library can. So an academic library might be able to do a little deeper dive on subjects that the public library isn't able to purchase materials on. However, the public library will have the latest bestsellers that many of the students in the academic library may want to read. So each of you can fill those gaps for each other. Don't give up. Again, patience, keep working at it. Partnerships take time to mature. Partnerships takes nurturing to mature. And partnerships take, I'm not going to say manure to mature, but they do take feeding to mature. So stick with it. And that is a really brief overview of how you can, some terms to think about in terms of developing partnerships. I am always available to talk to you about our statewide partnerships that we have with PA Forward. And now to talk a little bit more about how partnerships have been developed, I'm going to turn it over to Paula Gilbert and let her discuss some partnerships that libraries she's involved with have been working on. Paula.
Thank you, Rob. It's a pleasure. Hi, I'm Paula Gilbert, and I am from the York County Library System. I've just retired after 39 years as Director of Youth Services, and I am currently working part-time as contract manager for York County Libraries, which means I manage the partnerships that we have in youth services with our local schools. This includes the school district of the city of York and the York Academy Regional Charter School, as well as some others. But our partnerships have been going on for a long time, and I think Rob hit on some of the high points when it comes to building partnerships. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about the background of our partnerships, just to give you an idea of how long we've been doing this, and then some of the things that make them continue to work for us. Our relationship with the school district of the city of York started in 1987. It started because one of our board members liked what we were doing at the public library and wanted to know if we could do anything to help the school libraries improve what services they had to offer. So, of course, we said yes, because we always think that partnerships are a good thing. So we talked about what the superintendent, who was on our board, wanted. And then we went to talk with the principals, the librarians, and some of the teachers in each of the schools to listen to what they felt they needed. Because at the time, there were 7 elementary schools and only 4 librarians for those 7 elementary schools. So that meant that children in some of the libraries did not get service every day. And they were interested in finding a way to give service on a regular basis. So what we did was develop a plan that would offer the opportunity for school libraries to be open every day during the school year, which created a program called SLAM, our School Library Aids at Martin program. And that developed into something that provided service to those 7 elementary schools every day. Some days our folks worked with the librarians, some days they worked on their own as aides, checking out books and making sure kids had access. But it was a program that served a need in the city schools, and it was a program that allowed us to get city school children a library card, which most of them had never had before. It gave us an opportunity to share with the schools the kind of programming that they could have through us, which led to a relationship for the summer in the schools that started that year in the summer of 1988 and developed into our summer reading program in the city schools that continued for the last 30 some years. And it really was and is a beneficial partnership because it served needs for both of the organizations. It gave us the opportunity to reach out and build our reputation as an educational center for the York community, but it also helped the city schools to service their children more professionally and more thoroughly than they were in the past. What was exciting about this relationship is that it built one on top of the other. And as we became more integral in what was happening in the city schools on a regular basis, we developed more programming through our partnership. And I think that's one of the keys, is to look at how you can build a partnership. Once you've started a relationship, what are the ways that you can take those building blocks and make them something more? So what we did over time was we grew it not only from the library aid program and the summer program, but we also developed and found that the city schools had a need for behavior specialists. And they wanted a way for people to come in and help kids find a way to have a better experience while they were in the classroom. And so we were able to provide service to them through people that worked for us that could then work in the city schools, helping children with their behavior issues. And it connected to a better response for the kids in the schools, but it also continued to connect them to the public library and the way that they could connect with people when they came in the library after school. So that was an additional partnership. Another partnership that we started because we were building was an after-school program. We did after-school programming in our public library, but we always didn't reach the kids in the city schools who couldn't leave their neighborhoods. So for 5 years, we developed a partnership where we came in and did an after-school program with the city schools to provide them with that service. And it grew for them to the point where they were able to get a 21st Century grant to maintain the program on their own. We continue to work with them on that, but they are managing the program themselves, but it still is a partnership that works because it's something that benefits both sides of the coin. The last thing that we've developed that is currently in play is what we call our intervention program. And it offers our expertise with education from the library point of view, helping children get extra remediation. So we have literacy, and this year for the first time, math interventionists who are helping children to improve by going into the schools during the school day and assisting teachers by helping kids catch up. So it's a program that, again, benefits both of us because we're there helping the students learn and grow, and the city has extra help that they wouldn't normally have. So this has become a beneficial program for us as well. The other program that we work on that's been a really good partnership is York Academy Regional Charter School. This charter school was started in 2011 with the idea that students in the city schools might not have the opportunity to have a well-rounded school relationship, not getting the kinds of information that they might normally get if they went to a suburban school. So through this process of putting together a charter school, 2 suburban school districts and the York City schools formed a charter to build this charter school. The really great thing was, in reaching out to the community, they saw us as a partner in this program and asked us to provide the library service for the charter school, which meant that we were excited to be able to provide them with a school certified media specialist and a library aide, so that there was someone there to help the librarian all the time. And what was really exciting to us was they were able to take on our ILS system using our specific way that we check out books at the public library in the school as well. So that meant that kids automatically got a public library card and could use both the public library and the school library at the same time, building a relationship that continues to grow now. From when the school started as a K-2 building to this year, they are a full K-12 International Baccalaureate school with our support as their library within the building. So those kinds of relationships have grown over time. And we have taken the expertise that we have as library professionals and wanting to serve our community and put it to good work in the schools and help them to grow and to be able to serve their students better. And so when you think about building relationships, I want to talk about just 3 key points to remember so that when you do build your relationships, you're thinking about these all the time and keeping them in the forefront as you do that. Those 3 things are time, consistency, and clear goals. And when I talk about time, I'm talking about the time it takes to build the relationship and maintain the relationship. You need to talk to people. You need to go to the school. You need to sit down and talk with the administrators, listen to what they have to say, and then offer what you can that will serve them as well. So that time it takes to build a relationship is not quick. It does take time to build the foundation and to help it grow. But it is a great, great way to get started. And those coffee times are great. As Rob said, coffee is always good. And whether you do it in the school, outside the school, or wherever is convenient, the time it takes to have those conversations is important. And you also want to show up at events that the school has and at community meetings where you and the school are represented, because showing a united front to your community means that you're putting time and energy into the partnership. And it shows people that you care about what you're doing and that when you take that time, it's meaningful to you. So not only does it benefit you, it benefits the school as well, because being seen in the community as a participant makes a big difference to the library. And it only takes your time. It doesn't take any money. It just takes your time to be there and to support the folks that you're working with. The next thing is consistency. When you enter into a partnership, the one thing that you have to be is consistent, because they're going to count on you and you're going to count on them. And what you always want to do is say that you're going to do something and follow through, because they're going to count on you as a partner and you want to be able to count on them as well. So that if they say they're going to do something for you, you want them to do it. So that consistency is a huge part of having a good working relationship. And again, it doesn't take money. It just takes the time to do what you're going to do and say and do what you said you're going to do. So that consistency is really important. And you want to offer the best that you possibly can. So you're always going to do the very best for your partner and make sure that they see that you are working to do the best for them. And the last thing is having clear goals. And Rob did mention this too, and I think it's really important that when you go into a relationship and building a partnership, both sides have to have clear goals. You need to know as a library what you want as a goal from the partnership. And you also have to listen to what the other side, what that school or what the other partner wants, because you want to be able to fill their needs. Don't enter into a partnership that you know you can't fulfill what their goals are. This is not going to be successful, and it's not going to help you either. The best thing you can do is make sure that your goals match, that you have those intersecting goals that are going to be working so that each side gets what they need from the partnership. That's the best working partnership, is that each person, each place, each institution brings something to the table and can share it with the other side, and it fills the need from the other side of the table. So the goals are really important, and just making sure that your outcomes and your strategies are fully laid out before you start, and that you know exactly what is expected and what the outcomes are supposed to be. Those are the three things that you really need to remember: time, consistency, and goals. And the last thing I want to share with you is be flexible, because nothing is ever written in stone. And what you think is going to happen tomorrow may happen tomorrow, or it may happen the next day, or it may happen 2 weeks down the road. But if you can be flexible, it will be successful. Speaking from 34, 35 years of working with schools in all shapes and sizes, from private schools to public schools to whatever, flexibility is the key. And to build a partnership, you have to be flexible, because change is the only constant when you have partners. So understand the issues that you're dealing with, be upfront, be consistent, and share the best that you have. Because the bottom line is, a true partnership benefits both sides, and you know that what you give is what you'll get back. Thanks very much, and I hope you build good partnerships. And now, I'd like to turn it over to Alison Mackley, who's going to talk some more about partnerships.
Thank you, Rob and Paula. I'm very honored to be here as part of this presentation, The Library Ecosystem. We're all in this together. Rob and Paula both provided us with some really great general rules of thumb and some very specific ways that all libraries can work together. My name is Alison Mackley, and I'd love to share a little bit from the school library perspective. I am a member of the Governor's Advisory Council on Library Development for the Pennsylvania Department of Education. I am a PA Forward Steering Committee member for the Pennsylvania Library Association. I am a past president and distinguished service member of the Pennsylvania School Librarians Association. I am the director for curriculum development at the Elizabethtown College, and I'm a national board certified teacher librarian. I'm very happy to be here. I'm going to come back to this slide that Rob shared with you earlier. This is the image of the ecosystem that has been developed by American Library Association and their vision and their version of what this would look like if we all have one voice. Academic libraries and public libraries, school libraries, special libraries, and state libraries all have working together to have one voice so that we can be stronger in our membership, in our professional development, in our legislative cohesiveness, in our advocacy effectiveness. And we can really take this model and bring it down to a state level and bring it down to a local level and shift and guide our partnerships in different ways that will be supportive of everyone involved. One piece that I really thought was important from the ALA ecosystem materials was this quote about patrons. So a patron of one library is the potential patron and probable patron of any other library at a different time in their life or in a different location. No library exists independent of the library ecosystem. And when we stand together in mutual support, using common messaging themes that demonstrate this interconnectedness, every library is stronger. So all of the patrons are truly our patrons. The ALA ecosystem has a continuum for stronger library ecosystems. There's actually a rubric that you can use, and the 4 strands in that rubric are very intertwined, and they help you work toward really thinking intentionally and meaningfully about how all libraries can work together through leadership and communication and collaboration and sustainability. In the first area of leadership, one of the things that Rob mentioned is that libraries all have goals. And within the library ecosystem, if we were really to look at the goals of all the different types of libraries, we would find that they're probably very similar, if not identical. We sometimes, though, do have a different focus. And it's really important to keep in mind our commonalities, but also our differences and the things that make us special. One of the things to keep in mind is that if we know and we engage in cross-organizational efforts, it's just going to make us stronger. And one of the things that I did as a high school librarian is start a student advisory board. It was a Learning Commons Council. This Learning Commons Council truly helped make decisions within the school library. I actually formatted this student group around student voice and student choice. Everything we did was based on the PA Forward literacies. So our conversations about the culture and the climate and the environment in the school library focused around financial literacy, civic and social, health, information, and basic literacies. The students learned so much about what goes into the environment in a library. Having a student advisory board right next door in the public library, the youth librarian and I realized that there was a lot of crossover with our students. So I would be in the public library and see a lot of my students there. There were times when I had a public library representative come into my library, and there was overlap, but there were also some students who found their way to the student advisory board at the public library, but not necessarily the Learning Commons Council. So working together to bring these teams who have these wonderful ideas and these great voices together maybe in a common student library advisory board would be really beneficial. I can even see this at the academic library level, where college students are working with high school students or working in the school library to bring their ideas and pull all of the youth services together. In terms of communication, one of the best things that I think happened in my partnership with the public library was the library director and I had regular meetings. And we had those meetings 1 month at my school. So she would be in my school with the students, seeing how the library worked and how the library functioned within the school organization. She would see the services that were provided and the ways that the students were using my library. And then the opposite months, I would be in her library and I would be able to see how the patrons used the public library, how some of my students from my school were engaging in the public library in similar and in different ways than they did in my library. And that is probably the best thing that we could have done. We had that meeting on our calendar every month and we honored it. And we spent time in each other's places just learning. From that, I think that in terms of communication, public libraries, school libraries and academic libraries can really cooperate when we hit those speed bumps. So we know that not all libraries have the human capacity or sometimes even the financial capacity to serve our patrons in the way that we want. So the youth librarian at the public library would call upon me to provide her with some lists of popular young adult books and the most popular series and the books that my students were checking out, because my library was filled with young adult books. Whereas a public library has a young adult section, and she really wanted to fill that section with the books that the kids were desiring and to fill in those holes there so that the students could find those books that are most popular and most engaging at either place. Also, another way that we were able to cooperate is through databases. So the public library was able to provide me with a library card to access their databases so I could model and share with my students some of the databases that we didn't necessarily have available in our school so that they could use their public library cards and go to that library or remotely access some of the resources that they had. In terms of collaboration, this was such, meeting with the public library director led us toward more collaboration. I think one of the times when I felt the greatest collaboration and the greatest value of the way that we worked together was when the public library was having a building restructure. And I was invited to the stakeholder meetings to provide a different perspective and to share a little bit about the climate in the school and the culture in the school library that was created and how that might look and how that might maybe transfer or translate to the public library with a new look to it in a new building structure. I also started talking with the youth librarian about co-hosting events. She had this fantastic adulting series. And as she came to my library and I met with her, so I worked with the director and then also with the youth librarian, I said to her, wouldn't it be great if the two of us worked together and we hosted these events and we worked towards PA Forward Star library status. So we started planning some events around financial literacy and civic and social and information and basic and health. Some of them she already had in mind, some I had in mind. And we thought if she came to the school library during the times, like during our lunch times, or even during some of the times when the students had study hall, we could put on some of these programs multiple times throughout the day. And then the next month or on a different week, we could hold those same events or the next events in the public library. And I could be there to help contribute to that. And that's such a great way to be able to co-host events together that appeal to, in our case, youths. Finally, there's sustainability. And, and this is very difficult, but one of the things that was really important to me was sustaining relationships. So I was fortunate enough to be on the Pennsylvania Library Association PA Forward steering committee and one of the information literacy chairs with another academic librarian. And we were able to bring about the PA Forward Information Literacy Summit, where all types of librarians, school and public and academic and special and state libraries were able to come together, to have conversations, to learn about one another, to share perspectives, to share lessons. And those type of events encourage sustainability of relationships and conversations and direction and game plans. Also, I'm a proud member of the Pennsylvania Department of Education's Governor's Advisory Council on Library Development. And that is another place that I think supports sustainability. All library organizations are represented and are welcome to the meetings and are welcome to engage during those meetings and during the presentation section and also in the section for comments. And it's just another place for us to learn about one another, to be able to share ideas, to hear what's going on in the different library worlds in that ecosystem, and begin to understand each other and support one another in a sustainable way. There's so many different ways that all types of libraries can come together and share and support one another. And I would love to continue the conversation. So if anyone is interested in contacting me, my information is here. And on behalf of Rob and Paula and myself, thank you so much for attending our session, and we look forward to continued collaboration.